Welcome to Fite Sports Uncovered. Great show ahead of us today. For most of you, sport around the world has literally come to a standstill. Yes, we've seen a number of sports start emerging, start getting back to normality. But for the most part, sports have been taking place, for those that have been taking place, behind closed doors. So it would probably come as a surprise to you, as regular viewers of the show, to understand that there has been a situation in the world very recently where a World Championships has taken place. Yep, a World Championships took place across 134 countries with athletes competing out of their bedrooms, their lounges, garages, parks, rooftops, you name it. These athletes were sending in videos. They were compiling content of themselves, competing in the hopes that they would be able to walk away with a medal at the IFMA World Virtual Championships 2020. Now, joining me today in the show, not one, not two, but 5 guests that are going to talk about this recent World Championships put together by IFMA. And we're going to kickstart with IFMA representative. We're talking about Athletes Commission representative. He is no stranger to the show. Len, welcome to the show.
No, thank you.
Thanks for coming back. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Len, as the Vice President of the IFMA Athletes Commission, talk to me a little bit about the World Virtual Championships. It was something you and I spoke about in the very early stages of lockdown.
Yeah.
You sent me all the information. You said, watch this space. It's going to be something, a bit of a cracker. We waited, we watched. And over the period of the last, let's call it six to 8 months, the World Championships took place. South Africa competed on the stage, but the big thing about it was I understood from our conversations was that this was Muay Thai, global Muay Thai, looking at keeping the sport alive, keeping it active, where very few other combat sports in the world, and particularly in this country, literally went to sleep.
Yeah, that was exactly what happened. With obviously COVID and lockdown, we unfortunately had to put a halt to a lot of competition. Everything that was scheduled for the year was cancelled. The normal World Championships, the Junior World Championships, the African Championships, everything that was scheduled just came to an abrupt halt. And IFMA then looked at a way to get everybody to compete out of their, as you said, lounges, to rooftops, whatever the case is. And it was just phenomenal in terms of the response that we got. It was we broke it over 4 categories, and it's also just to bring the athlete into competition that would normally not be able to compete, even if in non-COVID times. It's traveling costs, there's visa costs, there's it's all the costs of going overseas. And we've got some very good athletes here, and it's unfortunately sometimes we are limited by budget in terms of where we can compete. Now we can compete, and it was very important to bring the world together, and to get the guys on that international stage and to give them a taste of exactly what IFMA and World Championships are all about, even though it was a virtual championship.
You spoke about the fact that this format afforded some 30,000 athletes around the world the opportunity to ignore visa costs, ignore lengthy travel, the expense of travel, and also the expense of participating in a World Championships. Literally, these 30,000 athletes could compete at zero cost to themselves, like we said, out of their garages, their living rooms, their dining rooms, gyms if they had them at home. Yeah. And there were 4 categories put together. Those 4 categories were Shadowbox, Y Crew, Max Fit and Aerofit.
And Aerofit, yeah.
Explain to me quickly those 4 categories. I mean, I fully understand the shadowboxing and the Y Crew, but for our viewers out there, just explain what those 4 categories entailed.
No, perfect. So, as anybody who does martial arts, you would know that a lot of times it's about working and imagining a virtual imaginary opponent that you are fighting. And you have to showcase your technique as good as you will against a normal opponent. Now, they would judge you on your shadow boxing category on your use of your weapons of Muay Thai, which is obviously your 8 limbs, your elbows, your knees, your kicks, your punches. And then also they would showcase and look at your balance, your power, your speed, your defense, everything that you need to show off in the ring. So that in itself was a very, very tough category, obviously. And so that was number one, and one of the main categories. Number two was the maxweight category, which was also extremely popular. And in the maxweight category, the guys had to do certain exercises. So you had 3 rounds, and it would be scored, even in the shadowboxing, would be scored on a 10-point must system. And over those 3 rounds, the guys will compete, for example, in sit-ups 1, 2, or burpees, or...
so there were specific exercises given for them to compete?
Yeah, so the guys will actually go up against each other. In corner, you've got a blue corner in all the divisions. And from there, the judges will score them 10-9, 10-8, whatever the case is, 10-point must system. So, and then you'll get your winner. So in the maxweight category, it was pretty simple. Technique needs to be right, and then number 2 is the guys obviously need to be fit, but they need to look at the most reps within that given time space. So that was a very popular one, and also that one they later on took to the United Free Sports Championship. The guys that did well there.
That was the UTS Championships,
yes, and they other divisions and other other world bodies could compete against each other. IFMA was there. Oh, sorry, IFMA was there. WACO was there. FIFA was there. So massive sports sort of going up against each other.
So fitness versus fitness across multiple sports.
Yeah, that is fantastic, exactly. So that was a very popular one, and one we did very well in. Even the shadowboxing. Then we had the Y crew. Now, if you guys know the traditional sort of dance before a Muay Thai bout, the guys work through just showing off and giving respect to their coaches, their gyms, and also as a form of warm up and stretching. But it's an art, and it's a fine art, and that was also judged in terms of fluidity, balance, the tradition, and everything that went with it.
Okay.
Over your Y crew category, and then lastly was the Aerofit category. Now the Aerofit category we didn't participate in as South Africa. We just didn't have any athletes there, but it's basically a synchronized workout that the teams used to put together. It could either be a fighting workout, it could be a fitness workout, but it must be synchronized. So that was basically the 4 categories.
So more than 30,000 athletes started this process. The finals consisting of just over 800 athletes competing across 700 bouts. And if we look at how this all whittled down, we're going to be joined right now by just one of those athletes. So yes, as you heard from Len Swart, South Africa represented on the international scene at the World Virtual Championships. Joining us right now is Sasuke.
Hello.
Hey Sasuke. So World Virtual Championships 2020, you competed. We're not going to go to where you ended up at all, but let's quickly take a little step back. You've been in Muay Thai, 4 years?
4 years, yes.
This is your first World Championships?
It is.
Scary?
Nerve-wracking, yes, but I think mostly exciting, I would say. It's a new experience. I think it's a new experience for everyone, especially that it's virtual, so we don't know what to expect. Things kept changing. It was really an amazing experience.
Talk to me about the fact that 4 years of Muay Thai training, so literally in the relative scheme of things, you're still fairly a newbie when it comes to the sport, still learning every day, I would assume. And here you are representing not only yourself, your gym, but your country at a World Championships. Yes, out of your living room, out of a gym, wherever it might have been. You competed across a couple of the competitions. Looking at how it all turned out for you, the shadowboxing, quarterfinals for you, wow.
Yeah, that was shocking.
Shocking.
I didn't expect it. I almost didn't enter, both categories in the beginning. I think most of us don't believe in ourselves, and it was through encouragement through other athletes and my crew that actually got me to enter the day before. So
you were a last-minute entry?
I was.
Okay.
And we started off in nationals, and I had tough competition, especially in the Muay Shadow. I know the girls I competed against, they're a lot younger than me, so I didn't really expect going through to nationals or winning nationals, especially in both categories. So, with Moy Shadow going on to quarterfinals, I was really surprised. And then obviously with Maxit doing a lot better, I didn't see that coming.
So, I mean, you were competing in the elite female category. What was it, under 60 kilograms? And just an aside, I mean, noticing, I think this last weekend, we had a situation where Valentina Shevchenko's mother, we found out that she also competed in the World Championships, winning gold. So from a Muay Thai point of view, gaining global recognition even at MMA levels, big shout out coming from her after winning her title fight. So that puts you in very, very good company in terms of, particularly if we look, a silver medalist on the podium when it comes to the max fit category. I mean, wow, did you expect that?
No, I still get goosebumps just hearing that. I realized when I got to the quarterfinals with the max fit especially, that I'm going up against international athletes. There's Yolanda Smith from Australia. She's an old Springbok athlete.
Yeah.
And it's incredible to know that you're going up against women like that. It's empowering, I think. It's something that you can't really explain to anyone. The virtual championships felt different because you're not on stage, so you have to keep motivated and be disciplined. So, and I think throughout the stage, with the different sections and exercises that we needed to do, everything is so different. So you never know, I mean, you've got your weaknesses and you've got your strengths. So you never know what to expect from the other person that you're competing against. And I think for women overall, because Muay Thai is overall seen as a men's sport.
Correct, yeah.
So in South Africa, there's not a lot of women athletes that do Muay Thai. So to represent South Africa on an international level and compete against strong women that is in the sport, that have been training for many years, I mean a lot longer than I have, it's really something I think that I still can get my head around.
Well, there you have it. You've heard it from a silver medalist at the World Virtual Championships. Ladies, you can end up at this level. All it takes, a little bit of commitment, a little bit of dedication, and you too could be walking away, representing your nation, and walking away with a World Championship medal. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we continue the story of a father-son team that also walked away with medals for South Africa. Don't go away.
Prayer is a privilege. It's a right given to us to approach the Father in faith and through His Word by the Holy Ghost. That opportunity that's given to us to pray is something the Father always wants us to seize. He always wants us to take advantage of the opportunity and the privilege of prayer. The Holy Spirit brings to us fellowship. It means a communion, a drinking together, a union with Him. We come into a place of relationship, a oneness, an inseparable oneness. And you ought to enjoy that fellowship every day. Every day. Our spiritual life depends so much on our communication with the Lord. When we take time off everything else and give Him our attention. He says, my son, give me your heart and let your eyes observe my ways. So we've got to pray because the spiritual controls the physical. Hallelujah. We pray on Mondays, on Wednesdays, and on Fridays, 12 noon as usual, and 10 p.m. Very important. 15-minute session, not too long, but very, very important.
Follow and pray with Pastor Chris on King's Chat and cause changes around the world today.
I worship you.
Welcome back to Fight Sports Uncovered. And if you missed the first part of our show, we're here at Warrior Sports in Centurion, where we're talking to some of the notable athletes that walked away representing South Africa with medals at the recent IFMA World Virtual Championships held across the globe, out of living rooms, bedrooms, garages, rooftops, parks, you name it. Athletes were competing across the world out of and from locations, really didn't matter where they were competing from. And like I said just before the break, joining us now is the elderly part of that father-son team. Japie Herman, thanks so much for joining us here and Fite Sports Uncovered. Wow. I mean, if we look, you're in your early 60s. You're in a situation where you competed in the 75 kilogram category, 75 kilogram and above category. You competed in the Max Fit competition of the World Virtual Championships. First of all, how long have you been in the Muay Thai circles?
In the Muay Thai, only 1 year. That's I introduced my son to Muay Thai, as we do martial arts now for 10 odd years. And now we actually I introduced Muay Thai because of the wonderful combat kind of athlete you can become being Muay Thai. So, and with that, it's actually, I fell in love with Muay Thai, you know, as we, because I'm also his coach, so I actually fell in love with the sport to see all the, you know, the techniques and all that involved in getting Muay Thai really on the road. And to me, that was a good additional kind of sport, or shall I say combat, for my son to actually get that going. And he was my motivation to be here, because I exercise everything he does. I exercise not as hard as he does, but I'm always there and I'm always training with him. And so this was like a challenge. I started off and doing all the reps and everything with him, and said, no, I'm not doing that bad, you know. And then my wife said, no, you must enter. She's going to contact Crew Len, and then we organized it. There I was.
So your wife was the push to enter into the Max Fit category. You competed against some of sort of notable Muay Thai athletes from around the world in your division, in your age category. And at the end of it all, you stepped up onto the virtual podium and walked away with a bronze medal. It's got to make you feel good about yourself with 1 year's Muay Thai behind you.
Yeah, great. That is, as I say, no, the fitness was always in me, so I did it as long, but this really pushed me to go a bit harder when I knew I was going to compete. So that was like the motivation about it.
And in terms of the actual virtual World Championships experience, what was that like for you?
Oh, it's wonderful. I mean, if you take, as you also discussed, you know, to get visas and all this, I mean, a lot of athletes can't go that route. So you get a lot of athletes that might even make a world championship, you know, get a gold, and they actually, financially, they can't afford it. So this, for me, to sit behind and just do this, it's wonderful, you know. So it's an opportunity for everyone then. And another thing to say, I mean, age mustn't limit you.
It's a number.
It's a number. So if your spirit and your mind is ready, you can do it, you know. So, and that's why I just want to shout out to all the elder people which has got aches and that, start doing something, you know, just start and get moving and do something to improve yourself in your physical fitness and all these kind of things.
Well, there you have it. Age is but a number. And here we have a gentleman in his early 60s competing at the World Virtual Championships and walking away a podium winner, bronze medalist. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Right, so from father to son, we just heard the wonderful story from Japie. Joining us now is his son Emric. Emric, 16 years old, you've now competed in your very first World Virtual Championships. Well, World Championships, forget about the fact that it's virtual. You entered into two categories. You were part of the shadowboxing category, and then you also entered the Max Fit category, obviously training under the guidance of your father. Talk to me first of all about the experience of competing in a World Championships, albeit on the other side of a screen.
Well, it's not stressful, and you can concentrate 100% on what you're doing. Like all the other World Championships, lots of stress and everything. But it was very nice, very.
So looking at the shadowboxing component of it, you did fairly well. You got right the way through sort of midway through the classifications. And then when we come to the max fit, this is where you excelled. I mean, you got right the way through to the finals, okay, and walking away ultimately on the podium again, silver medalist. I mean, wow. I mean, first of all, how long have you been training Muay Thai?
Muay Thai 1 year, yes.
So
Just
1 year Muay Thai experience, you end up at a World Championships, competing against some of the best in your age category, and you walk away with a silver medal.
Yes,
Got to make you proud.
very proud.
And if we understand the competition that you were up against, was it tough?
It was, especially the one that came first place. He was very good.
And he's the guy obviously you lost out to.
Yes, but it's nice to lose sometimes because you gain experience from it. So, yeah.
So you've got quite a bit of combat sports experience. You had some experience in MMA. You've now moved across to Muay Thai. Is this now the sport that has stolen your heart?
Well, yes, it did, because it is great. It learns you great combat and everything. So yeah.
Now, you ending up on the podium, that meant that you could then take that further. You then went off to the UTS Championships, where, as Len was mentioning earlier, you competed against athletes from multiple other sports around the world, most notably FIFA. That's the next sort of level of this max fit sort of championships. How was that for you?
It was a very nice experience because all the sport came together. You go against bikers, horse riders, even singers. So it was very nice.
Well, there you have it. From a young man who's only been participating in Muay Thai for about a year, represented South Africa, and was one of only 3 South Africans to walk away on the podium with medals, silver medalist, Emre Karman. Congratulations and well done.
Thank you very much.
Right, so you've heard it from our medalists, those that have represented South Africa and walked away as podium winners at the Virtual World Championships. Joining us now is the president of Muay Thai here in South Africa, Brett. 30,000 athletes competing across the world, 134 countries represented, living rooms, garages, rooftops, parks from around the world showcased at these Virtual World Championships. South Africa ultimately ending up, 10th? Top 10 in amongst those 134 countries. We've got 3 of your representatives ending up on the virtual podium, if we could call it that, as the president of the sport here in South Africa. Geez, that's got to make you feel good.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. In the beginning, no one was too sure about the whole thing. IFMA jumped in and they put the whole thing together, gave those 4 different categories, so you could pull in guys from all different walks, not just Muay Thai people. So you had the max fit, you had those divisions that everybody could enter. We weren't too sure how we were going to do it in the beginning because we were still under quite hard lockdown. Guys hadn't been to the gym in a couple of months, still trying to get contact of fighters and who wants to compete and how we were going to do it. But we managed. We did our nationals and brought everyone in. We did our selections through that, made our team, and then entered. And everyone did very well. I mean, most of the people made it through to quarterfinals, semifinals, and then we got some medals as well, which was very good.
I mean, from a combat sports perspective here in South Africa, looking at the landscape over this lockdown, you're one of the very few martial arts in the country that actually actively kept your athletes, whether they were weekend warriors, whether they were actually amateur or professional athletes, or just those that just loved the sport to keep fit. You're one of the very few martial arts that kept the sport alive, kept people, athletes of all shapes and sizes, competing, kept them fit, kept them sort of active within the sport. I mean, that says a lot about where Muay Thai has come over the last number of years.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's what was great about IFMA is, they didn't just sit back and say, sorry, World Championships has been cancelled this year, we'll see you next year. They jumped in and they made a plan and they made it work. I mean, yes, they had a lot of things to iron out along the way. There was a couple of changes here and there, last minute changes. We had to pull everyone in and re-record videos and things like that for the entries. But, at the end of the day, it ended up running very well. And it just kept the guys kept them focused and gave them something to work towards during the lockdown and when they didn't have normal training and competitions and things to do. So just kept the guys engaged.
Looking forward to 2021. This is obviously a great launch pad for the sport here in South Africa. Looking forward to 2021. Some very young athletes competing and doing exceptionally well at the Virtual World Championships. I'm assuming from a overarching administrative point of view, you're hoping that things are going to open up a lot more. We can start getting back to what we were used to, events, fans, etc., and hopefully start hosting events again where we can actually see some actual competitive sport.
Yeah, no, the guys are hungry for it. I mean, we've started talking about some tournaments coming up the beginning of next year, the GFC, the end of January, our SAMF tournaments in February. And yeah, the amount of entries we've had already has just been explosive. Everybody wants to get back and going. So, it's kept the guys hungry, it's kept the guys involved, and yeah, now they're ready to go. So we'll see what happens with the restrictions early next year, but yeah, we should get going soon again.
Well, Brett, first of all, from us at Fite Sports Uncovered, congratulations on facilitating, hosting, looking at what IFMA is planning to do. This is probably not a one-off event. This is probably going to continue.
No, they've said they're going to keep it going and then see how it goes. But yeah, no, it's good. They said that they'd like to do it every year, which is nice for the guys like Len touched on earlier. Is not everyone can afford plane tickets and visa costs and travel costs to go over there, which this gives them a platform to also be able to compete on an international level.
So there you have it. A lot of people are talking about a new normal post-COVID. This looks like it's going to become Muay Thai's new normal, the annual hosting of a Virtual World Championships. We look forward to 2021's version. We look forward to seeing more than just 3 South Africans on the podium, because obviously sport is an experiential space. The experience from our 3 winners, our 3 podium places, is obviously going to really amplify and really ripple through the Muay Thai community here in South Africa. We look forward to 2021, not only from a Virtual World Championships point of view, but from getting sport back, fans, fighters back in the rings and the relative cages. Until then, we're going to just have to wait and see what those restrictions look like. Brett, once again, thanks for your time. Thanks for the entire team. Really proud moment, I suppose, for you guys as an administrative body. There you have it. That's our show. Until next week, protect yourselves at all times. We're out.